Chronological Approach, Present Studies in the Order of Publication if Showing Historical Trends. Part 1, Understanding the Chronological Approach in Literature Review. The chronological approach in Chapter 2 of a thesis organizes the review of related literature based on the timeline of publication. This method is particularly useful when studying historical trends, changes in theories, or the evolution of research in a specific field. It provides a clear perspective on how knowledge, methods, and conclusions have developed over time, highlighting shifts in academic thought, policy changes, and advancements in technology or practice. One of the key advantages of using a chronological approach is that it shows the progression of ideas. By presenting studies in the order they were published, researchers can illustrate how earlier works influenced later ones. For example, in research on climate change policies, an early study from the 1980s might have discussed initial concerns about global warming, while later studies in the 2000s could explore the implementation of international agreements like the Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement. Another important feature of the chronological approach is that it reveals gaps and turning points in research. For instance, there may be a period where few studies were conducted on a topic, indicating a gap in knowledge. Conversely, a sudden increase in studies may signal the emergence of new theories or technological breakthroughs. When using this approach, researchers should be mindful of contextual factors that influence studies at different times. Changes in social, political, economic, or technological conditions often shape research findings. For example, studies on remote work productivity before 2020 may differ significantly from those conducted during and after the COVID-19 pandemic due to shifts in workplace dynamics. A well-structured chronological literature review typically follows these steps: identify key periods, divide literature into time periods based on significant developments in the field. Summarize and compare, discuss each study's contributions, methodologies, and findings, highlighting trends and changes. Highlight turning points, identify key moments where research perspectives or technologies shifted. Connect past to present, show how earlier studies influence current research and justify the need for further investigation. In summary, the chronological approach is an effective method for reviewing literature when the goal is to present historical trends, track the evolution of ideas, or analyze shifts in academic and professional discourse over time. Part 2, Implementing the Chronological Approach in Literature Review. Applying the chronological approach requires careful selection and organization of literature to ensure a logical and meaningful progression. The goal is not just to list studies in order of publication but to show how ideas and research findings have developed over time. 1. Establishing a timeline. To begin, researchers should divide the literature into distinct time periods based on significant changes in the field. These periods may be determined by decades or eras, useful for long-term research trends, e.g., technological advancements in education from the 1980s to the present. Key theoretical developments. If major theories evolved, literature can be categorized by theoretical shifts. Major events, historical, social, or technological events that impacted research, e.g., the impact of COVID-19 on remote work studies. 2. Summarizing studies in order. Each study should be presented based on its publication year, summarizing key findings, methodologies, and contributions. It's essential to avoid simply listing studies. Instead, researchers should analyze trends and show how research has progressed. For example, 1990s, early studies focused on traditional classroom teaching methods. 2000s, the rise of digital tools introduced blended learning approaches. 2010s, online learning platforms became more prevalent, with studies assessing their effectiveness. 2020s, the COVID-19 pandemic accelerated research on remote learning and digital education policies. 3. Identifying trends and gaps. By organizing studies in a timeline, researchers can identify patterns, trends, and gaps in the literature. Key questions to consider include: how has research evolved over time? Are there conflicting findings between earlier and later studies? When did major breakthroughs or paradigm shifts occur? Are there gaps where research was limited or absent? For example, if analyzing studies on climate change adaptation strategies, researchers might find that earlier works emphasized theoretical predictions, while more recent studies focus on practical implementation and policy effectiveness. 4. Highlighting key turning points. Certain moments in research history represent turning points where new theories, technologies, or methodologies emerged. These shifts should be clearly highlighted. For example, pre-1990s, climate models were largely theoretical. 1990s to 2000s, increased use of satellite data improved climate predictions. 2010s present, AI and machine learning enhance climate forecasting and mitigation strategies. 5. Connecting past research to the present study. The final step is to bridge past research with the current study. This involves summarizing how previous works contribute to the present research and identifying remaining gaps. A strong conclusion should show how recent studies build upon earlier findings. Justify why the current study is necessary by addressing unresolved questions. Highlight how new methodologies, technologies, or perspectives can contribute to future research. For example, if researching artificial intelligence in healthcare, a chronological review could show how early AI applications focused on diagnosis, while later studies expanded into personalized treatment plans. The study could then justify further exploration into ethical considerations and AI bias in healthcare decision-making. Conclusion: the chronological approach is a valuable method for organizing literature when showing historical trends, theoretical evolution, or shifts in research focus. By carefully structuring studies based on publication order, researchers can trace the development of ideas, identify research gaps, and provide context for the present study. When applied effectively, this method ensures a coherent, well-organized literature review that demonstrates a clear progression of knowledge in the chosen field. If you like this kind of content, click subscribe to be updated on the next video. Thank you for watching.